Thank you so much, Savi. Hello, everyone. My name is Swathi Bavanaka. I think you've seen me as the host early during this session, and now I'm back to share my learnings with the community. So, just to quickly get started, I would like to learn how many of you are aspiring to become entrepreneurs. Can you quickly type in your comments? Meanwhile, I'll have the session get started. Today, I'm here to help you get a simple understanding on how to get startup ideas. So, we see many people use the word startup for a small business or a new business also. So, today, the frameworks and the filters I'm going to explain is mostly about the startup ideas which has very high growth potential and easy to scale, easy and fast to scale, and has a very high market opportunity. Let's dive into this code right away. So many of us heard this quote, I believe. Success is 1% idea and 99% execution. How many of you agree or disagree to this? Oh, there are a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs in the crowd. So if you agree, disagree, just get into the comment section and just type it in so that, we get an understanding on where we stand right now. 50-50, agree, thumbs ups. So true. So right. So let me bust the myth with this, right? I was like you, like most of you, where I see lots of answers like 50-50 as well, but I was like most of you, thinking that idea is nothing and it's all about execution. And I haven't realized until and unless I got into my entrepreneurship journey. That is the reason we are talking about how to get startup ideas today. So if we look at this quote, right, it says a great idea is a multiplier of all your efforts and it compounds over time. So what does that mean? Let me help you understand with an example. Let's take founder A and let's take founder B. So let's assume both of them are highly skilled. They have great capabilities and they both have great grit, right? So if we take both of them, A got a great idea, whereas B got a mediocre idea or a bad idea, right? So if we see how they would progress just in a matter of 1 year, we can clearly say that A might have progressed in a great direction and his efforts would have multiplied, whereas B would have also his efforts, though matter both of them has put in 100% of their efforts, it goes in the wrong direction and it adds up to nothing. So in the bottom line, initially, even before the startup takes off, when the startup takes off, execution kicks in. But before the startup takes off, a great idea is really important. This is one of the best quotes I have come across recently from James Courier. This is one of the top venture capitalists from the Silicon Valley. He says the biggest waste in our ecosystem is great people working on mediocre ideas, right? So let me start with this idea. How does this sound to you? Let me pitch. We all know there are like many pet owners, right? We know there are millions of pet owners in the West. How about we develop a social network for pet owners? How does this idea sound to you if I'm pitching to you right now? Do you think it's a great idea or do you think it's a bad idea? What do you think? Just share your views based on whatever knowledge you have so far. So I think there are like multiple viewpoints. I'm sure each of you might be having different opinions on how to go about this idea. For me, it sounded fantastic even 3 months before. Like, I could imagine there are like millions of pet owners, and I could imagine it's a huge social network, and there's a lot of craze and there's a lot of trend that is going on for pets, right? But how do we really evaluate if this idea is right or wrong? I have come up with a filter that we can learn today based on all my learnings and an excellent article from Paul Graham. So that filter is called as PDF. P stands for the problem, and there should be depth to it, and the idea should be futuristic, right? Problem. So when we talk about a problem, I think we have seen lots of designers and entrepreneurs today, and they said that it started with their own problem or from their network or friends or family, the problems they have seen from, and they can totally relate and they can understand there is a problem that is existing in first place. So that is first filter, making sure the problem actually exists. Next, so if we take the depth of it, so when we take this idea, right, it looks very broad. They're like broad range of audience, and if we actually go talk to them, we will hear different viewpoints. But what Paul Graham suggests is there should be really some small set of user base you should who really needs this idea, whatever you are developing. Let's say I'm pitching a solution saying that I have a social network for pet owners. There should be at least some of the people who should be willing to use this platform, right? And next, it should be futuristic. Like, definitely the growth should be high, and it should be obvious that you're building for the future. If we take this filter and apply it to the pet owner social network, we clearly see that we have no idea about this PD. It's clear that it sounds futuristic, it's huge and all those things. But if we talk about do problem really exist for this, or is there really some users who use it right away? So there is actually a case study done on this, and there are like lots of people who are trying to develop this kind of solutions. Even now, when I go out on networking, who pitch to me saying that, we're developing Tinder for pets, dogs, many things like that. But there's actually a real case study done, and what exactly happened was they went talk to the users, and users were saying it's fantastic. The pet owners were saying that it's really amazing, it's really fantastic, but not even one was willing to look at it, and they were not ready to try it. So it sums up to what it actually summed up to was a zero user, right? So according to this, so the filter, whatever we are using, according to this filter, the idea has failed, right? Then let's move on to, so let me help you share some examples of a homegrown startup stories, which nicely fits into this filter. I'm sure you all must have heard about Practo, you must have heard about Redbuzz, Ola, and many more. So I would like to share my personal favorite story of Redbuzz, because he's also Telugu, I'm also Telugu, and he's from Bitspilani, and I can totally relate to his story, right? So the Redbuzz founder, Fanindra Sama, he actually started building Redbuzz when actually he hit with a problem statement. He actually wanted to go to home for Diwali, and what exactly happened was he could not find any tickets despite trialing for running to many travel agencies. We might have if you at least are experienced, and if you might have witnessed the 10 years back process of how do you book the tickets, right? You will have to go get your tickets and things like that. So failing to get the ticket, he thought that it is a very simple solution and they could do something about it. There was nothing like they wanted to build a startup. Actually, they wanted to do something about it, and what they started building a prototype, right? So they started building this, and they could easily understand that. So if we go back to the PDF filter, then he personally knows the problem exists, and he knows there are some users, his colleagues, who would need the solution, and he thinks that, he felt that it's a very simple problem to solve, and he went ahead building with it. Eventually what happened was it became a very big thing, because lots of other people in the market during that time were chasing flight bookings, but they were onto building something very Indian, right? Bus ticket booking, and it has gone big. How do we actually know that the idea can go big or not? Let's discuss more about it in the next slides. So I'm sure you can say that it is very easy to say that once the startup is successful, we can say that they had this, they didn't have this. So I want to share my our own journey so that we can relate to it and understand it better. So the way we started evibe.in was from our like actually what we did was me and my co-founder, colleague back then, we both were working at a startup called as Nonscape, and it was a gaming simulations company. So that was for B2B market. So we were solving those, we were building those products for the business size, and we felt that the number of users who are using these products are quite limited, and we were always fascinated by doing something huge, building something for millions, right? It like the same way, like when we talked about social network for pet owners, it sounds very huge, and you're kicked about it and you would like to do it. So we were exploring a lot of options ourselves on what to do, but not essentially like a startup, but as a side project, and see how it goes. And then we found none of the ideas plausible, because we always thought that they are small and we could not find it so exciting to build something on our own. Eventually what happened was, me and my colleague, we decided to get married. We told our family that we are planning to get married, and though they were shocked, they ultimately believed in it, and they gave a go ahead, and it was our time to do the rest of the things. We thought that coming from tech backgrounds, just like how you plan your holidays, we thought that we can plan a wedding online. I'm sure a lot of you might be thinking about Band Baja Bharat, but Band Baja Bharat is not what we were thinking. We were planning to build something like a Zomato, old Zomato, which was there for content. Like, you can see all the options available for wedding. Just click on the options, and then just get the wedding ready, right? So this is something that we had in our mind. Immediately we thought that this millions of people would be getting married, and there'll be so many people like us who would use tech and would find this solution helpful. That is how we got started with evibe.in. And I would say this idea was very similar to the pet owner social network idea. Why? Because when we went into the reality, when we went to the users, actually what happened was, the users, like, even for our wedding, we thought that such kind of platform should exist and we should do something about it and things like that. But eventually our parents got done just within hours, because everybody was there in the neighborhood and they were not online. So the biggest learning for us was, the decision makers were not online, and there were no users to take it, right? Similar to pet owner social network idea. But luckily, when we were doing, like, I think Shivrina also told that when you have an idea, you go talk to the people in your network. Then what we did was, we were pitching this idea, some of our seniors, people from our peers network, we pitched, and we said that this is what we were doing. But luckily what we got was, we found parents, like our seniors who already have kids, they wanted to do birthdays online. So until then, my idea of a birthday party was something simple, like what we used to celebrate in childhood, right? Small cakes and probably some chips and cool drinks, something like that, and the birthday stuff. But in Bangalore, what happened was, the moment we thought that, okay, let us try, because users are already ready, we went live on Feb 10th, and we got our first paying customer on Feb 11th, right? So this has gave us a little sense of what exactly was happening. But what happened was, we actually went to the customer party and understood how actually it gets done. It was amazing. There were like so many customers who were coming to us organically via Google search, and there was no looking back from them. What we realized that we hit a gold pot, probably, because there are so many customers, they're ready to pay, and we could build a platform. Then what we did was we expanded across different categories. We didn't just stick to, kids birthdays, and we made it to all the private occasions which are bookable online, unlike weddings. We expanded to cities, and what happened was we were able to eventually build $1 million in traction also with this same idea. So with this in store and planning to expand to other occasions and cities, coronavirus has disrupted the businesses. Like most of the businesses, it hit us hard. Our business went down to zero just within few days. And then it's the same users who came to us to asking us to do something about it, because there are already existing users or customers to you. They came back to us and asked us to do something about it, and that is how we have come up with a platform for the virtual celebrations. It was unbelievable for us, and it was unbelievable for them also. The way people are celebrating uh, online, even including the grandparents, is crazy. This is something we have never anticipated. It is all thanks to COVID. I'm not saying in a negative sense, but the digital disruption that is happening with the industry, with the customers, is something that we can never imagine, right? So it's been like 1 month since we started doing these things with the existing platforms, like video conferencing platforms like Zoom, Google Meet, and all. But now we are on a journey of building a platform on our own, a global consumer app targeting for people. They can celebrate on their own using this platform, and there are like some really cool features that we are planning to build. So I would give the heads up that there are always bigger possibilities that has popped up the moment we got into this idea, much bigger than what we have seen in the last 5 years with eVibe in the previous business model. But we would want to try out, test, and see how the users would take it. So I would still call it an experiment, and would love to keep you posted on how things are going. So how can you assess an idea, or how can you get a startup idea, right? Now you know what is a good idea. You know some success stories. You heard some of the stories today. You heard our story. But how can you come up with a startup idea? It's a simple framework. It is called as a JBL framework, right? It's a journal, build, and love. I would say, so if going back to our PDF is the basis on which you generate ideas. So the first step is you generate ideas, right? So start challenging each and everything. Start challenging each and everything that is happening to you. If you feel something is a problem, if you know people, if they already have any problems, start making the journal, right? Make a list of the problems. Probably you can do it every day, probably you can do it weekly, based on the intensity at which you want to do a startup, right? Start making notice of what problems exist around you. Once you make a list, once you make a journal, then you pick the ideas which you love the most, and which you can build. If you are picking an idea because it is fancy, or probably you don't know if you can build it or not, then probably there might be some difficulties that we would face eventually so far. If we see Karti's talk, I think she was talking about the one you understand the most, the one you can build. These are our own capabilities, and that is what would make probably a success. We cannot tell it yet in the starting, but this is an excellent framework for you to come up with lots of startup ideas and filter. And let me give you a heads up that it is not about few hours of brainstorming. I've seen lots of people doing ideas bootcamp, that bootcamp, this bootcamp. If you have to arrive at a good idea, I'm sure like it takes few months to years process. I'm just giving you a heads up if you haven't started this journey yet. I think this is a much used quote. We are seeing there are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. I am bringing back this quote because we are personally witnessing this in our own journey when we're building virtual celebrations. The way customers are adapting digitally to it, even from the remote villages, even from the other cities, other countries, wide variety of audience, is something that we have never experienced. This wouldn't have had been possible without the COVID digital disruption. So I would suggest, if you have been an aspiring entrepreneur, or you have some ideas, or you want to do something about it, this is a great time to start now. I'm sure it is going to be a tough journey. I am here to help. There is a big community here to help. Shivrina told there's a big community. There's a Google Launchpad community. We are part of Google Launchpad Bill. We are part of many communities too. There are like many people out there to help you out. I am personally there to help you out with whatever knowledge I have. I would only like to leave you with one message. Now that you have time, you just get started. Thank you. And you can reach out to me either on LinkedIn or Twitter. Happy to help. And thank you so much to Lakshya and Women Tech Makers for an amazing opportunity. I am enjoying my journey both as an entrepreneur and as a community organizer, and the kind of visibility and all the help and support that I'm getting is amazing. I'm super thankful to you.